Right, so now that I've got some more spare time on my hands, I think it's time I start to discuss the, I guess, more emotionally impactful side of the story. And by emotionally impactful, I mean, I guess in a sort of negative way at the time, but it was a net positive overall in the long term, because this was the bit that really gave me a wake-up call. It initiated my spiritual journey. The story I'm referring to is the one that I've discussed in my previous episode about situationships, in particular the situationship with S. In this episode, I'm going to dive into, I guess, the darker aspect of the situationship, more so the ending. The way the situationship ended, it exposed me to probably one of the darkest aspects of humans in general. So I think before I begin to dive into the ending, I strongly recommend that you view the previous episode and what actually happened, just to feel yourself in. But to briefly summarize, I met this American girl online in Roblox, because of course at the time I was Roblox addicted, and I still kind of am to this day. So, I think it was around late Feb to early March this year. Me and S were still going strong with our situationship. We were hitting it off really well. We FaceTimed once or twice too. We had a pretty strong chemistry, and basically it was just all sunshine and rainbows up until one fateful gaming sesh. So, me and S were playing this game called Funk Friday, which is a multiplayer PvP knockoff of Friday Night Funkin', as you could probably guess. So yeah, we were also there with a couple of other friends online, including her close male friend that I mentioned before in the previous video. You know what? This time we'll give him a letter. We'll go with M. Why not? So things were going solid until S. She abruptly left the server out of nowhere, just right in front of me and the other mates there. And I got really concerned because I began suspecting that it was because of a joke I made. And basically, right before she left, I pretty much rage baited her after I lost, and I was just like, Higgy rocked, S shocked, pretty much, in like a playful, banterous manner, you know? And I suspected that she may have not taken that in the right way. What made the situation worse was that M told me a few seconds later that she went to go play with another male friend. So of course, hearing that, my brain just went haywire. Of course, anyone would be a little scared if their loved one were to hang out with another person of the opposite gender, or just any person. It's 2025. It's totally human, it's just being cautious, right? But for some reason, my brain just went haywire, and I pretty much entered a state of massive panic with so many intrusive thoughts just barraging me at once. Like, what if she doesn't like me anymore? Who is that guy? Is he her ex she mentioned before, and maybe she's getting back with him? What if I'm just not good enough for her? What if I offended her? What if? So I left the game and I wanted to message her to see if she's okay, but then I made a crucial mistake. And it was the fact that I saw that she wasn't actually in a game with a male friend yet, so I thought it would be a good idea to join her, confront her, and ask her if she was doing okay directly, because of course the idea I had in mind was that I would check in on her, sincerely apologize if I needed to, and make sure not to repeat that same mistake again. But of course, by the time I could do that, she left. And she joined the male friend that M was talking about. So of course, once it actually happened, my panic got even worse, as the thought that maybe she was abandoning me for someone else became even more pervasive. I messaged her to ask how she was doing on Discord and if she was okay later on. However, though I had controlled my panic to an extent initially, it still made me message her male friend as well and ask him how she was doing, and of course both of their answers didn't line up. Her male friend said she was doing great and seemed fine, but she was messaging me on the other hand saying that she left because, you guessed it, she felt hurt by my jokes and her friends' jokes too, as well as a few other things. And I felt extremely sorry. I started having a full-on panic attack at that point and was like, damn it, I knew it, I should not have made those jokes, I was tend to hurt people by mistake, blah blah blah. And that was another crucial mistake I made, and you'll hear why in a bit. But yeah, I panicked so much and I wanted to apologize, but I couldn't, and then in the chaos I forgot. But most importantly, the things I said out of fear of losing her, it seemed like love bombing to her, when in fact it was just my genuine emotion and love for her. Keep this aspect in mind, because this is also something I forgot to consider at the time, because, well, I was panicking. Eventually things settled down and things became normal again, seemingly, until she started acting cold for some reason. Pretty much I messaged her to say hello while walking to uni once, and she just said, well, hi, in a disinterested way. And that same feeling happened again. That feeling of panic that she was losing interest in me. But fortunately, she acted normal again after I messaged her later when I got less busy with uni. In fact, she got over the top worried for me when I mentioned there was a cyclone coming in at the time, even though I literally was going to be fine because I live in an elevated area. So after we settled down again, I asked if she wanted to play anything, and she said she wanted to play with M first. But of course I joined and told her I'll join because I was excited. I was like, yay, she still loves me, oh my goodness. I'm just glad that she's still interested in me, you know? And that's another mistake I'll explain soon. I joined and I found out S and M were ranting about Trump and his new policies, like his ridiculous tariffs and his plans to send humans to Mars and all that other bullshit. And of course, I listened and I was listening, but I was in a happy mood, an overly happy mood. And at the time, I assumed it was just a funny rant about Trump at the time. So I made a joke about already knowing about Trump's policies because I live in the future. Well, I mean, technically I do because Australia is a day ahead of America, you know? But yeah, I made that joke, and after I made that joke, we continued talking, and I was listening, and I was agreeing with how bullshit it was. And then she abruptly left again, acting cold again. And she joined that male friend again, and that panic ate at me again. That fear of losing her again came back. I left and I joined her, and I asked if they were okay with me joining, and they said yes. This male friend is the same male friend that she joined last time. So they said yes, I played with them. And then she left again, not even a few minutes later. And of course, at that point, I just got frustrated with her behavior. This weird hot and cold push and pull kind of dynamic. And I messaged her in Discord going, you know, you can just tell me when you need space, right? Maybe that you even hate me, which is a bit of a stretch, and I will leave you alone, right? This one message, it caused a conflict that would change both of our lives forever. So immediately after saying this, S dropped the bombshell question. Do you really love me? Or is it just the idea of me? Of course I said yes, because I generally did. But then she interrogated me more, asking me things like, what do you know about me? What are my favorite hobbies? Etc, etc. And I was confused on where this was coming from, so I responded badly, saying, I know ice skating is one of your hobbies. And she said, that's a question. What do you know about me? And I gave her my honest, literal, objective answer. Not everything for sure, but you don't know me much either. Which was absolutely true. She never really asked me the deeper questions of life, never got to know my values and my core properly, and honestly, neither did I. Though I did ask her a few deep questions about things like her future, what her dream home would be, and stuff like that. And then I asked, how do I prove that I'm invested in you? And this is when all those mistakes, those crucial mistakes that I've pointed out before, come into play. So S told me that I proved that I haven't, based on the supposed love bombing, my supposed disruptions of her privacy with that other male friend and M, the jokes I made when she was talking about Trump, and so on. So those mistakes I mentioned earlier were seen as malicious acts from her perspective. She called me dismissive. She called me a love bomber. She called me a bad listener. She called me so many things based off of a few tiny errors I made. She directly threw accusations at me and I was panicking to the maximum, only for her to claim that she's holding me accountable and not trying to be rude. I felt antagonized, I felt accused, but I also felt terribly sorry for making her feel the way she did, and I felt guilty. Immensely guilty. So I just broke down from the pressure, because any person who has even gotten this close to a relationship for the first time, they would do that. They would just break down. I just went silent, and then she ended the barrage with the sentence, "Now you won't even speak. Sorry for even trying." I calmed down eventually, with the help of one of my old friends whom I don't speak to anymore, but I am thankful for at the time. And I wrote a letter to S that was over 1,000 words long, showing my love, my sorrow for everything I did and didn't do, because I wanted her and no one but her, and I wasn't willing to give up just yet. Everything was seemingly fine after that, the next day. But the final nail in the coffin was my panic arising again. It made me ask her what those issues were again. Even though I knew deep down they were about Trump, I doubted myself because of who she painted me as. A bad person. Someone to be held accountable, someone to rectify their mistakes and fix things. So as expected, the bullshit began again. S replied, "You would have known if you had listened to me before." But the panic also made me ask M the same thing, her male friend. Why? Because I was still doubting myself, and I also doubted her intentions. So I did. I thought that by asking him I could finally clarify that doubt itching my brain, but all it did was just make things goddamn worse. M told S about me asking him, and S took it as leverage again to believe that I was a bad person. She took it a step further this time and called me a manipulator, a liar trying to save his ass. All because out of my panic that I felt, I didn't respond properly and instead ran along with her doubts that I was lying, making her even more convinced I was a liar. And eventually I had no choice but to just give up on her. My nervous system was just tired of the nonsense, and it just made me involuntarily stonewall her. And I said goodbye. She saw my farewell as a sign that I was giving up on her entirely, which wasn't true since it was just a panic response. And she blocked me. That's how this situationship ended. Me being a villain. Me being someone that just failed to be a good person. That's what I generally thought of myself for 4 months straight. 4 fucking months. Wasted on trying to move on from S. Wasted on thoughts of guilt and shame for what I did. And in the process, I regressed in almost every aspect in the physical world. I suffered from severe mental health issues. I lost all my progress in the gym. I developed an intense porn addiction again by relapsing for the first time in almost 2 years. And my efforts in both academics and YouTube as well declined severely. Most of all, my sleeping and eating got affected severely as well. Of course, recently I've gotten back on track. I can confidently say the majority of these problems have been addressed and even solved. As fortunate as I am that nothing more severe actually happened, I have to admit it was definitely the lowest point in my life thus far. I realize now that deep down, I never believed those thoughts, but it took me those 4 months to finally admit that was not what happened. I was never a villain. I never meant to hurt her feelings, because I never was responsible for hurting her feelings. So lads, looking back at this, I eventually realized that S had emotionally manipulated me. But it was unintentional. I repeat, unintentional. As per an article on psychcentral.com, and of course every other source, emotional manipulation is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person seeks to control another person's emotions, and it isn't necessarily the product of conscious thought. That's exactly what happened. I was guilt-tripped. My mind was placed in a state of distress and immense confusion, all symptoms of emotional manipulation, and she also kept switching the goalposts to make our conversation fit the narrative her mind made up and chose to follow. How did I know for certain it was not malicious manipulation? Well, M reached out about a month later, I believe, and asked me how I was doing. And I figured since he reached out, it would mean that I could get some sort of closure on the situation by wishing S a happy birthday. So after a few months, that's what I did. I wished her through her friend M on her birthday, and M told me that she started crying because of that. And she wished for my well-being too. Those tears, they were clear proof that what she did was not intentional. A person that intentionally manipulates you would not feel any remorse or any emotions towards their acts whatsoever. And moreover, an intentional manipulator wouldn't be so aware of their trauma and their wounds that they actively state they are healing from a past relationship, which is exactly what S told me the day I confessed. So, is it a valid explanation for what she did? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean I should excuse her asshole behavior, because even if the majority of times trauma and other mental issues can influence decision making, unless those mental issues directly result in uncontrollable misdeeds, it is ultimately the individual's responsibility to master control over their wounds and emotions to prevent such behavior from happening. So, this leads to my main point. S was not a villain, not an intentional manipulative psycho, but she had a mindset that's not only significantly more rampant than villainy, but also far worse. S was a coward. The one thing I'd always despised about this fucking world the most was not the minds of the permanently corrupt, but the minds whose owners let it be governed by fear. Villains are undoubtedly nasty creatures, and I despise them, because those people are capable of and have permanently stained history with the most devilish and atrocious acts known to mankind. But pathetically, their clarity on what they want, their ability to stand on one side almost every fucking second of their life, even if it's the wrong side, is far more admirable than the coward mentality. Cowards aren't just people that hesitate over things, okay? We all hesitate to do certain things at some point in time. No. These guys, they don't just explicitly know that they want the best possible outcomes, the most objectively moral path, the path that they very much know is right for them. But when the universe gives them the green fucking light, that clear as day evidence to go for it, urgently make those massive steps forward or urgently turn their life around for the betterment as an individual, and there is a 100% probability of it succeeding and benefiting them, they don't. Instead, they freeze, they retreat, they avoid, they delay, they deflect, they abandon, and they deny. In all my honesty, it is just utterly ridiculous that this mentality, it has destroyed more relationships, more friendships, more families, more communities, more chances, and more futures than real malice ever has. And the worst part is that a coward always convinces themselves that what they did was justified. And looking back now, the signs were all there. The universe made me and S meet for a reason. It was giving S the biggest chance to redeem herself after her past relationship, to heal, to face her inner wounds. And it was also giving me that massive opportunity as well. But the difference between her and I is that the moment our wounds were simultaneously triggered, in my case, my panic attacks, which stemmed from trauma that I was actually carrying, and her doubts and concerns, which stemmed from her trauma, I actively fought and faced those wounds head on while she couldn't. She wanted me, she wanted this connection, but she wasn't willing to put in the same fucking effort as I was, because it meant that she would have to struggle just a bit more in her life by facing her wounds head on. She let that fear within govern her every move, and she threw away not just what she could have had, but the truly beautiful and best version of herself that she could have been. And she did that by letting herself believe a false narrative her own trauma formulated and influence what otherwise could have been a way less complicated conversation to fit her narrative. She threw accusations to catch me off guard, confuse me, guilt trip me, debilitate me, and switch the goalposts constantly, regardless of whatever explanation I offered and whatever efforts I put in, because she wanted the conversation to fit what she believed. I loved her with my goddamn heart, mind, and soul, and she was never ever willing to do the same. She let fear push me away the whole time, from the beginning, when she made it a situationship. And if anything, it just awakened me to the fact that I can't settle for people like this anymore. I deserve better, and I always have. And also, now that I think about it, even M, he had also fell into that cowardly mentality, but instead he disguised that fear as protectiveness. Now look, I know that you should never ever ask others or depend on others for help with a relationship, because partnerships specifically require the efforts of only the partners involved. And that's a point I'll probably discuss in another video. And especially, you should never ever ask someone several years younger than you for advice for your relationship. It was such a stupid decision of mine, and I acknowledge that, okay? But I was panicking, 1, and I only asked him for clarity in a spiraling situation, number 2. But the moment I shared what happened with him, he didn't mediate, he didn't give clarity. Instead of giving what both of us needed most at the time, he chose what was most convenient. And that was throwing me under the bus. And for what? So you could avoid getting involved? Even doing nothing or not even responding is far better than this, and is utterly disgusting. Some truly amazing souls just jeopardize themselves by letting their own fear dictate their decisions. And the moldy cherry on top is this audacity to reach out later on, as if that was ever going to fix what has already goddamn collapsed. It does not matter how old he was at the time, throwing people under the bus, not because it's the right thing to do, but whenever it's convenient, is inexcusable behavior, period. It is not just emotionally immature, it is a violation of basic human decency. And if in this particular case, which though significant, is so minute relative to others, the impact of their cowardice on me was this immense. Imagine how much more dangerous of an impact cowardice could have in more severe contexts. So this is my final message to the cowards of the world. Yes, you. The people that are not willing to grow up, letting their cowardice frame maturity as a prison inhibiting you from your fun. The people who can't detach from individuals they very much know are dragging them down to the abyss. The people that avoid hardship even if it means it's the only way to getting what they want, be it love, work, ambition, self-improvement, healing, whatever. The people that do not manage their physical and mental health even when their body is aching and screaming to do it. The people that can't stand for their family, friends, and other loved ones the moment they truly need them. The people that fear being alone because they believe somehow that having people present in their life is an indicator of success, and not having them around will shatter you to goddamn pieces. And most of all, the people who either practice evil because it's the easier and less scarier thing than doing the right thing, encouraging evil to prevail by letting their fear stop them from standing up for what's right, or constantly swap between sides whenever it is most convenient for them. I'm sure I've definitely missed some other kinds, but the point is, you know who the fuck you are and what kind of fucking life you have let your mindset create. I'm not here to shame you. I'm not here to attack you. I'm only here to tell you the honest truth. Your heart has been screaming at you to change your ways. The universe is tired of sending constant signs that the life you have been living thus far is not the life intended for you, and you are taking those signs for granted. If anything in this video hit you, don't look away. Don't pretend it doesn't apply. Don't hide behind excuses. Sit down and listen. Okay? I'm not here to save you. I'm here to remind you, you're the fucking driver. The wheel is in your hands. Not that fear that you believe is the true version of yourself. You. Take control, or stay right where you fucking are and watch everything slip away. Again. Because your silence, your lack of movement, physical, mental, and spiritual, it is damaging this world more than a few rotten bastards ever could. The ball's in your court, brother. The ball is in your goddamn fucking court. Will you serve it? Or will you leave it?
If you don't do anything, or you just do the same thing over and over again, you stay the same.
You were still there to hold. In a world filled with anger, you were still there to comfort.
In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum. But those who abandon their friends are worse than scum.
You never go back on my word. That's my ninja way!
Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.